Hello students, welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video lecture, I would like to explain to you the concept of uniform costing and interfirm comparison. But before that, let me tell you, it is purely a theoretical chapter and you will be asked theoretical questions in the exam. The title of the chapter is Uniform Costing and Interfirm Comparison. If you can observe, there are four keywords in the title of the chapter. The first keyword is uniform. It refers to same or similar. The second keyword is costing. It refers to a technique and process of ascertaining costs. And the third keyword is interfirm. It means between two or more firms, oblique companies or undertakings. And finally, the fourth keyword is comparison. It means a consideration or estimate of the similarities between two things or people. If I consider two keywords together, that is uniform and costing, then I could say that uniform costing means a similar technique and process of ascertaining cost. And likewise, if I consider remaining two keywords, that is interfirm comparison, then I could say that it refers to a comparison between two or more companies. But what is the relationship between these two concepts? And what is the need of comparison? Basically, we compare ourselves with someone else to find out the similarities and differences between us. Students, we believe in the principle that is like should be compared with like. But why do we believe in this principle? I would like to give you one example. Let's compare two companies. The first company I have chosen is Tata Motors. Now, it is one of the leading company of automobile industry. It mainly produces passenger vehicles and transport vehicles. And I have decided to compare the achievement of this company with another company of banking industry. It is State Bank of India. Now, it offers loans to its clients. Now, as a data, I know Tata Motors company's previous year profit and the number of vehicles sold by it. And as a information, I know State Bank of India's previous year profit and the position of NPA, that is non-performing asset. Now, on the basis of this information or data, can I compare the achievements of Tata Motors against the achievements of State Bank of India? In order to find out which company is performing better, can I compare Tata Motors number of units sold in the previous year against the position of NPA of State Bank of India? No, I can't compare. It is not comparable data. The reason is the reason is that I have chosen unlike companies for comparison because we all believe in the principle that is like should be compared with like. But I can compare Tata Motors performance against the Maruti Suzuki company because these both companies are of the same industry. Both companies are of automobile industry and both these companies produces similar type of products, that is passenger vehicles and transport vehicles. So, on the basis of this discussion, students, we can frame one conclusion. That is, unless there is some basic similarity among the companies with regard to their business, industry, and products, seeking comparison would be difficult. Students, I want you to assume that you are running a company XYZ Limited and your peers companies are ABC Limited and DEF Limited. Now, you want to find out the position of your company, that is XYZ Limited, in the market, whether you are ahead of your peers or you are behind of your peers. And at the same time, your peers are also interested in knowing their position in the market. So you three have decided to compare your achievements, your other criteria with each other. And for that, you have appointed a neutral person. And you have told that neutral person to compare the performances of our company with each other and to find out which company is performing in a better way. And you want to compare your achievements, your profitability, your cost of production, efficiency, and productivity, and other key points with other companies. That is your peer companies. Here, meaning of peer companies means your competitor companies. So that neutral person has demanded you certain data, that is financial data and cost data, and you three have provided him a cost data and financial data. And after comparing a financial data and cost data with each other, he will be finding out which is the better company in the in this industry. But at the time of a comparison, to find out which company is earning more profit, he realized that these three companies are charging depreciation at different rates on their assets, and the method of charging depreciation is also different. And because of that, in some companies the amount of depreciation is more, in other companies the amount of depreciation is less. In those companies where amount of depreciation is more, the profit is less, and in other companies where the amount of depreciation is less, consequently the profit is more. So here the stand of neutral person is like that you three companies should have a similar rate of depreciation. You should use similar method of charging depreciation. At the time of uh, comparing efficiency in the utilization of a raw material, he understood that the production methods in these three companies are different, though these three companies are a part of same industry, though they are producing similar type of products, but their method of production is different. So in this situation, how could I say the amount of waste in a particular company is less or more, because here the method of production is different. So on the basis of that, students, we could say that to compare the different aspects of the units of the same company or different companies of the same industry, it is essential that the same set of costing methods, principles, and practices are adopted by all these units. It means in order to compare the achievements, profitability, cost of production, efficiency, productivity of XYZ Limited with its peers, these three companies should have a similar type of costing methods, principles, and practices. Okay, I will give you one more example. That neutral person understood that while comparing the cost of production, that is the cost of product produced by these three companies, he found out that the method of production is different and the method of ascertaining the cost, that is costing method, that is also different. So the cost amount as per one method is different, and the cost at the same time the cost amount as per other method is different. As these three companies are not similar in using the costing method to ascertain the cost of the product, how can I compare the uh, cost of production of the products produced by you? So he is of that opinion that you all should use same set of costing methods, principles, and practices. Now, I would like to explain to you the meaning of uniform costing. But before that, let me remind you two important points. Point number one, two companies can compare their key indicators with each other only if they are a part of same industry and they are producing similar type of products or rendering similar type of services. And the second point, along with the previous point, these two companies should use similar costing methods, principles, techniques, and procedures. Point number one. Therefore, we could say that uniform costing refers to the use by several undertakings of the same costing principles or practices. Point number two. It involves adoption of same costing principles, practices, and procedures by the individual members of the industry for interfirm comparison. Point number three. When different undertakings in the same industry or in different industries adopted a set of standard accepted cost accounting principles, it is said to be uniform costing is followed. Now let's discuss the features of uniform costing. Point number one, it is a practice of using same costing methods, techniques, and principles. Point number two, uniform costing is neither a separate method of cost accounting nor a separate technique of costing. It is a system of costing. It is interesting to note that uniform costing is neither a separate method of cost accounting like job costing or process costing, nor a separate technique of costing like marginal costing or standard costing, but is a particular system of costing which takes the help of both methods and techniques of costing. The most important characteristic of uniform costing is that whatever costing methods are used for ascertaining cost, the same should be applied uniformly in a number of companies in the same industry or in different industries. Point number three, the uniform costing can be implemented easily among undertakings manufacturing the same type of products or rendering same services. It helps in interfirm comparison, fixation of prices, cost control, cost reduction, and in seeking tax relief or protection from government. Now let's discuss where we can apply a system of uniform costing. Point number one. a single company having a number of factories located at different places producing similar products or performing similar operation. For example, this system is being adopted by Associated Cement Company for its plants. In this case, management prescribes a set of forms and procedures for the plants and all the records are maintained in a uniform manner. Point number B. A number of companies within the same industry. A number of undertakings in the same industry which may have united through a trade association or such other body. For example, different companies in the cement industry or steel industry or any other industry may adopt uniform costing. Point number C. Industries engaged in similar line of trade. Industries which are different but engaged in similar line of trade, for example, cotton, woolen, and jute textiles, various types of transports, etc. From this discussion, I could say that the uniform costing system may be suitable only when two or more units want to follow the same costing principles and practices, because the concept of uniform costing is based on the application of similar costing methods, techniques, and procedures. Let's discuss now the objectives of uniform costing. The application of uniform costing system has the following objects. Point number 1, to provide reliable cost data for interfirm comparison of achievements, cost, target, profitability, efficiency, productivity, etc. To enable each firm to compare its own operational efficiency against industry standard and eliminate its inefficiencies. To effect improvement in labor and machine performance, production methods, and techniques. To fix a common selling price which is acceptable to all. To serve as a basis of competitive but not destructive bidding. To help in standardizing several common processes of operation. To help trade associations in regulating production capacity and decoding on pricing policy, and also to keep general control over member units. Student, now I would like to discuss few areas where uniformity is necessary. I had told you to assume that you are running a company XYZ and you are having few peers in the same industry. You and your peers have decided to make interfirm comparison. But can you make interfirm comparison without accepting uniform costing system? No, you cannot make interfirm comparison because uniform costing system is the pre-requirement of interfirm comparison. And for that, you have decided to accept uniform costing system. Therefore, in the stage of designing and installing uniform costing system, you should ensure that the total uniformity is achieved in certain important areas. I have mentioned here few areas. Method of costing to be used to ascertain the cost. You and your peer should use similar costing method to ascertain the cost of the products. You and your peer should classify your cost on similar basis and their expected accounting treatment should be similar. You should select a suitable cost unit and you should finalize your cost center in a similar way. You cannot have a different cost unit for ascertaining your cost because with respect to cost unit, costs are ascertained. Here I can give you an example. Suppose I have told you to compare a weight of two persons, Mr. A and Mr. B. Weight of Mr. A is measured in kilogram and weight of Mr. B is measured in pounds. Now can you tell me who has a more weight, who has gained more weight? You can't tell me because here units are different. Next point, you should have a similar system of material control. The method chosen by you and your peers should be similar for the valuation of a stock and work in progress. The method for pricing of material issue should be similar. There are few methods like FIFO, LIFO, weighted average method, simple average method. You and your peers should use a similar method for pricing material issues. Methods and rate of depreciation on fixed asset should be similar. Methods of remuneration to workers and the incentive schemes, their bonus should be similar. Formats of cost statement, cost sets report should be similar. Look, here the cost data and financial data will be compared to determine or to identify the strengths and weaknesses of the participating units. Therefore, it is essential to present information in the similar format Techniques of cost control to be followed should be similar. And finally, the method of recording accounting information should be similar. There are two methods for recording accounting information: integral or non-integral. You should choose one method of it. The important areas of uniformity listed here are much more advisory but not comprehensive, as it simply depends upon the need of uniformity in reporting and accuracy of cost comparison required by participating firms. Let's now discuss the requisites for uniform costing. Certain conditions are desirable for effective introduction and successful implementation of uniform costing system. You should be understood that 100% fulfillment of this condition is not always possible, but the sincere efforts need to be made towards such similarities before a uniform costing system is installed. It requires sincere efforts from the number of member units. The important purpose of these requisites for the installation of a uniform costing is to ensure that the system becomes generally applicable to all participating units in the same industry. The ultimate success of uniform costing system depends on various factors. But before explaining to you all these factors, I would like to remind you that you are running a company in a particular industry XYZ Limited, and you are having few competitors in the same industry. To ensure ultimate success of this industry, you and the competitor company should follow certain conditions. And these conditions are the requisites of uniform costings. There should be uniformity among the member units in respect to products, methods, process of production, capital, and cost structure. Now you know that it is a basic requirement of interfirm comparison. Until and unless the products are same, the companies are of same industry, there cannot be an interfirm comparison. There should be a central organization as a controlling body. Your company and your competitor company should come together and unite and establish a central organization. After its establishment, you all will be a member of this organization. Usually, this kind of central organization are known as trade association, chamber of commerce. The important role of such an organization is to guide all the participating companies to adopt uniform costing system for the benefit of all. Its important role is the collection of data and making coordination between the participating unit. And after that, after the processing of data, it will present information to all the participating units. After receiving such a information, all the participating units will be comparing their data with of other companies' data to identify their strengths and weaknesses. Uniform costing system must be properly explained to all the concerned. Before installation of uniform costing system, it is at utmost necessary to explain all the facets of uniform costing system to all the participating units, and it is a duty of central organization. There should be understanding, mutual trust, cooperation among the participating units. It is essential. All the participating units must have mutual trust and must cooperate with each other. Here, Here, interfirm comparison is carried out on the basis of information provided by the participating units. If any participating unit hesitates or refuses to present the data in required format, then comparison cannot be made. There should be no rivalry, no jealousy among the participating members. There should be free exchange of ideas, secrets, R&D, and methods of production. It is interesting to note that all the participating companies should exchange ideas, their secrets, their research and development, and their methods of production with each other. It means a bigger company should share their advanced methods of production to the weaker companies of the same industry if such a company is a part of central organization. Cost statements and reports should be prepared on a uniform basis, and the accounting period should be common for all units. Here, the comparison is made between the data provided by the participating companies. Therefore, whatever data they are forwarding or they are presenting to the central organization, it should be prepared on a uniform basis. And the accounting period should be common for all the units. If data is demanded for a 1 year, then all the participating units are supposed to present a data of 1 year. If any participating company is forwarding a data of 6 months, then the comparison cannot be made. Preparation of uniform cost manual regarding the organization accounting system, costing system, production methods, marketing system, and reporting of the information to the management, etc. It is a duty of a central organization to devise uniform cost manual. Now, students, I would like to explain to you the uniform cost manual. After purchasing a mobile phone, you might have received a written document. It is a kind of a booklet, or you can also call it as a reference book, which guides us in operating mobile phone. Just like that, it is the duty of a trade association to prepare uniform cost manual. And the purpose of preparing such a uniform cost manual is to guide the participating companies in in making effective installation of uniform costing system. A uniform costing manual is a booklet which contains detailed instructions to be followed by various firms in an industry in connection with cost determination and control. It provides guidelines to the participating firms to organize their cost accounting system on a uniform basis. It is useful to the executives, cost accountants for solving all problems in installation and execution of recommended uniform costing methods. Now, I would like to share with you the advantages of uniform costing. The important advantages of uniform costing system arise mainly from the desire to help each other with free exchange of experiences, know-how, innovative ideas and methods, sharing of sound, reliable and relevant cost information, make available analytical and meaningful comparable data, inculcate cooperative attitude among member units, keep healthy competitive spirit, establish suitable business policies and standard accounting practices for improving the efficiency of the industry as a whole. The advantages of uniform costing can be discussed under different headings. Let's discuss the advantages of uniform costing for the member units. I mean to say the participating companies. Point number one, it facilitates interfirm comparison among different units by providing reliable cost data and assists in identifying strengths and weaknesses of a unit. Now the question arises, how does a uniform costing facilitate interfirm comparison among different units and how does it help the participating companies in identifying their strengths and weaknesses? Dear student, you know that one of the primary pre-requirement of uniform costing is the establishment of a trade organization. I mean to say central organization. All the participating companies come together and they form a central organization and that's how they become a part of a central organization. Now it is the duty of a central organization to collect the reliable cost data from all the participating companies in the desired format. After collecting the original data from all the participating companies, the trade organization convert that data into useful ratios and useful ratios are forwarded to all the participating companies. After receiving such a ratios, I mean to say the information in the form of ratios of other company from the trade association, all companies can compare their own ratios with that of other companies. After comparing their own ratio with other company, they come to know their strengths and weaknesses. Point number two, it helps in fixation of selling prices. Now again, how does the uniform costing helps in fixation of selling prices? That is also possible. In as per the scheme of uniform costing, all the participating companies transfer their cost data to the central organization. After knowing the cost of production of each company, all the members can fix a suitable selling price in keeping into consideration the profits of all the organization. So it helps directly in fixation of selling prices. Point number three, it makes economical the services of a professional cost and management accountant. But how does it make economical the services of a professional cost and management accountant? Simple, because one competent expert can be appointed at the association office to look after the cost accounting system of all the units instead of appointing a separate cost accountant or management accountant or cost or management accountant for each member unit. That's how it makes cheap the services of a expert persons like professional cost and management accountant. Point number four, adoption of computerized accounting system is possible for all member units due to as they accept a similar cost and financial accounting system in all the company. That's how adoption of a computerized accounting system is possible. It helps in enhancing efficiency and productivity as every member units follow standard and efficient production methods and production control. Now, it is important. But again, the question arises, how does the uniform costing helps in enhancing efficiency and productivity of every member unit, because all the participating company share their production methods to the central organization, and the central organization compare all the production methods, and they come to know the best production method. And after knowing the best production method, the remaining companies can easily adopt such a method for their production activity. That's how it enhances efficiency and productivity by accepting the standard and efficient production method. In short, here production methods are compared and the best production method is selected. That's how it automatically enhances the efficiency and productivity. It encourages standardization of material, labor, and operations. All the activities, all the processes related with materials and labors, which are effective, are accepted by all the participating company. After accepting the similar activities related to material operation and labor operation, it automatically encourages standardization of material, labor, and operations. It avoids cutthroat competition among the members by removing their rivalries and ensures healthy competition among the member units. But how does it help the participating company in removing their rivalries? Because the system of uniform costing is based on trust among all the participating company. If there is no trust, if there is no mutual consensus on every aspect, then the system of uniform costing cannot be what I call built. That's why it avoids cutthroat competition. And one more thing, all the members come together and they discuss their problem with each other, and that's how it encourages cooperation among all the participating companies. That's why it helps in eliminating competition among the participating companies. Point number 8. It helps the weaker units to get the benefits of research and development made by a big concern. One of the primary pre-requirement of uniform costing is that the big companies should share their advanced production methods, their research and development, their ideas, their know-how, their experiences to all the weaker units. So weaker units uh, need not to waste their money for further research and development, because the research and development task has been performed by some other big companies. They can easily get the benefits of their research and development. They need not to waste their penny for research and development, which is already made by big companies. It creates cost consciousness among the member units by telling them the best cost control and cost reduction method. See, every company has its own cost control techniques and cost reduction techniques, and any company who has been successful with particular technique is easily accepted by other companies. That's why it automatically creates cost consciousness among the member units. It helps the member units in cost audit. See, here all the companies share their cost data to the central organization. As they are sharing their data to the central organization, it means they have the cost data, and such a cost data is useful in cost audit. It helps in reducing labor turnover rate. It is one of the pre-requirement of uniform costing is that all the participating company should agree to pay a similar wages. Means, I mean to say, they all should agree to pay their wages at a similar rate. They should have a similar incentive scheme. They should have a similar bonus scheme for the employees. As workers and employees comes to know that in other companies there are same rate of wages. Their incentive scheme, their bonus schemes are similar to this incentive scheme and bonus scheme offered to us by our current company. So there is no point of leaving the current company for the latter company. That's how it helps in reducing labor turnover rate. That's why they didn't, I mean to say, they don't prefer to leave the current company for the other company. And in most of the situation, labor leave the current company because of additional benefits which they are going to get in other company. But all the company offer similar type of wage rate, similar type of, they have similar type of incentive scheme and bonus scheme. That's why labor attachment with the company becomes long term attachment. Now let's discuss the advantages of uniform costing with respect to workers. Point number 1, it ensures uniform wage structure in all member units. Now, I have just explained to you in the previous point of advantages of member unit, that it reduces the labor turnover. Why the labor turnover rate gets reduced? Due to employees commitment with the company. uh, a company becomes strong. Why? Because they get the similar rate, they get the similar incentives, bonus, they get the wages at the similar rate. And such a rates and such a bonus schemes and such a incentive schemes are similar throughout the company, throughout the industry, and throughout the participating companies. That's how it ensures in uniform wage structure to all the workers of all the member units. Employees will be benefited in sharing bonus and other amenities due to increase in efficiency, productivity, and profitability. The profitability, efficiency, and productivity of big company at or a weaker company or small company automatically improves as they get the ideas, as they get the know-how and experiences, or what I call, they know they get the idea from the research and development of other company. They come to know the best production methods in the industry, and they just select those methods. They just copy and paste all those ideas and the best production methods and atomization in their own company, and that's how their company's efficiency, productivity, and profitability increases. And that's how, as company's profitability increases, employees automatically benefited due to increased profitability. They get extra bonus, they get extra incentives from the company. Now I would like to share with you the advantages of uniform costing for the trade association. Point number one: trade association can have better control over all the member units of the industry in eliminating wasteful competition. Actually, trade association is the representative of all the member units, as it is formed by all the member units. And it is the duty of a trade association to coordinate all the activities of all the participating companies to ensure the progress of the industry. Any companies, any activity, if resulting as a hurdle in the progress of the industry, can be easily controlled by the trade association. Point number two: it enables trade association to represent the problem of a member units to the government in getting the subsidy and other forms of concession. Actually, you know that trade association is formed by all the participating companies, and being representative of all the participating company, it can present the industry's problem or any particular company's problem in front of government. And as it has a data of all the participating company, it becomes easy for the trade association to have a negotiations on various fronts while dealing with the government. It can also demand the adequate subsidy on the basis of data available to it of its participating companies, and it can place that data to the government, and on the basis of that data it can have the subsidy and other forms of concession from the government. Next point: it enables trade association to place a significant cost data before the government for negotiations in respect of matters such as the tariffs, import of raw material, fixation of minimum wages. I think I have already explained you this point while discussing with you the second point of trade association. Let's discuss now the advantages of uniform costing for the government. It enables the government in formulating various policies relating to fixation of prices, granting subsidy, etc., based on the information of several undertakings within an industry. Now the question is, how does it help government in fixing selling prices? Because the trade association gets the data from all the participating company, and it can forward that data to the government. I mean to say, government can have that data easily from the trade association of all the participating company, and from that data the government will come to know what is the cost of production of all the participating company. After considering the average of it, government can easily fix the selling prices of the products produced by all the participating company. Now how does it help in granting subsidy on the information of several undertakings within an industry? Actually, government can grant subsidy to the participating company which has accepted the system of uniform costing on the basis of data they have provided to the government. Actually, here The trade association provide the data to the government, cost data, and after knowing the cost data, after getting the cost data and after analyzing it further, the government will come to know what are the problems right now the industry is facing. I mean to say the companies of this trade association are facing, and after knowing their problems, government can easily give them any economic package or subsidy what they want. It means the government can provide them subsidy on the basis of data provided to it by the trade association. It enables the government to give priority to public or private sector industry based upon their progress and prosperity. Now, here governments give priority usually to weaker section. Usually to weaker section. How does it come to know the particular industry is weaker or not? It comes to know whether the particular industry is weaker or not on the basis of the data, which is made available to it by such a trade association or chamber of commerce. And after analyzing that data, the government will come to know which of trade associations companies are progressive and which are progressive and which companies are not progressive of any particular or any of other industry. And by that government can bifurcate all the industries, I mean to say the sectors, public or private sector, and according to that government can give priority. The government can formulate tax rates based on the useful information supplied to it. That is quite obvious. Now let's discuss the limitations of uniform costing. Proper installation and effective operation of uniform costing system is very difficult because of few limitations. Let's discuss all those limitations. Point number one, it presumes the application of same principles and methods in each of the member units. Actually, it is the fundamental assumption on the basis on that the scheme of uniform costing is built, but individual units differ in respect of certain key factors as the methods of production, size of the organization, methods of accounting, location, age and condition of plant, nature of labor force, capital investment, and degree of mechanization, which make difficult the application of uniform costing. That is quite obvious. See, all the company, the concept of uniform costing is based on the application of the use of similar costing methods, principles, and techniques. If the participating companies, I mean to say the players, the different players of the same industry differ in respect of certain key areas, like their methods of production are different, their sizes are different, the scheme of atomization is different, their condition of plant if it is different, if the nature of labor force is different. In that case, how will it be easy to have a scheme of uniform costing? So it is the serious limitation of uniform costing. And one more limitation, let me tell you, the scheme of uniform costing we can have only in those companies which are a part of same industry and which produces similar type of products. Now, point number two. Individual firms may be unwilling to disclose the information relating to the cost, technical procedures, R&D, profitability, etc. They may maintain secrecy due to lack of trust and confidence on other units. Moreover, incorrect cost data may be provided by member units. Here, let me tell you. Suppose, as I have told you, you are running a company. I just told you to assume that you are running a company XYZ Limited, and you are the topest company of your sector, and you are having technical edge, R&D edge over your competitors. And the one of the pre-requirement of uniform costing is that you should share your technical details, your methods of production, your R&D with other companies. And now you tell me, uh, would you take that risk to reveal your secrets, your R&D to your competitor company? And after knowing your secrets, your competitor company, which is right now weak, may become strong. And strong company, you may have a lot of competition from a strong company. So who will disclose their technical aspects? So this is the serious limitation of uniform costing. And let's come to the second part of this point. They may maintain secrecy due to lack of trust, confidence, or other units, and moreover incorrect cost data may be provided by member units. Now there is a chance of providing incorrect information to the trade association, and if that information is provided by trade association to other companies, and if other companies have taken decision on such incorrect data and their decision would be wrong, means that if they implement their decision, then they will have a negative effects of such a decision because they have taken decision of on incorrect information.
So this is a serious limitation of uniform costing. Now next point, with regard to small units, the system becomes too expensive to operate. The cost of installation and operation will not be commensurate with the benefits derived. Now here let me tell you, uh, as we know, as we say that in uniform costing, the method of production should be similar. In big company, the production is means production is made through atomization. Means entire factory is there. Means the entire setup is there. They have their own machinery and they are producing their products with their own machinery. But in case of a small units, let's say they do not have that quantity and quality of machinery. Now in that case they will have to buy it, no, and buying of such a machinery would be not easy for the small units. Therefore the cost of installation and operation will not be commensurate with the benefits derived. So it is serious limitation as far as small units are concerned. Now, it may create monopolistic tendencies within the industry. Prices may be raised and supplies curtailed in order to create shortage. Thus, it may be harmful to the interest of the customers. Now, that is quite possible. See, as here, all the participating companies share their cost data with the trade association, and after analyzing that data, trade association will come to know what is the average cost price in the market, and they fix the selling price to ensure the profitability of all the participating companies. Now, here all the participating company can purposely raise the selling price. They can do it, and they can also curtail the production in order to create shortage of the product, and that's how they can cheat the public, they can cheat the customer, and that's why it is harmful to the interest of the customers. Last number, it is not flexible, and that is cannot be changed whenever the need arises, because one thing, and that one thing should be common in all the companies. I'm just taking one example. If it has been decided to have a particular activity just like that, then all other companies should have that activity just like that. I mean to say, let's they have decided to charge depreciation on a particular on a particular asset at the rate of 10%, then all other companies should depreciate that asset at the rate of 10% only. So that's why it is not flexible. Means one is common for all and others cannot change it. That's why it is not flexible. Now I would like to share with you the meaning of interfirm comparison. But before that, let me tell you the concept of uniform costing is totally different from the concept of interfirm comparison. It's true that the interfirm comparison is dependent on uniform costing, because until and unless the costing methods, principles, techniques, procedures are not same of the companies of the same industry, the interfirm comparison cannot be made. Means the performance of the key indicators cannot be compared. Uh, let's begin. When production methods, technology, product characteristics, and general operating figures of one own company compared with other companies within the industry, this type of comparison is known as intergroup comparison. In short, the companies whose products are same, if they are a part of the same industry, and if they are using similar set of costing principles, methods, and techniques, then the comparison made between them is known as interfirm comparison. Thus, interfirm comparison is a management technique of comparing the performances, efficiency, cost, profits of company with other companies within the same industry. Actually, the key indicators, that is profitability, cost of production, and the efficiency, the utilization of available resources are compared of one company with another company. That's why it is known as management technique, because only after that management will come to know their strong points and their weak points. It consists of voluntary exchange of information regarding cost, prices, profits, productivity, and overall efficiency among the companies engaged in a similar type of operation for the purpose of bringing improvement in efficiency. Look here, actually, costing data is compared of one company with another company, and without exchanging costing data, how can one company improve its efficiency without knowing the best of other company? That's why there should be a voluntary exchange of information, and for that only a trade association is formed, and the trade association looks after the information required for the interfirm comparison, and it collects that information from the participating companies. It is based on the principle that is like should be compared with like. I think I have already explained to this point. Until and unless there is similarity in various aspects, comparison cannot be made. Thus, a uniform costing system is a prerequisite to an interfirm comparison. I have already told you that the concept of interfirm comparison is different from uniform costing. They are not same. Many times students feels that uniform costing and interfirm comparison are same. No, for interfirm comparison, the company should accept a scheme of uniform costing. If they don't accept the system of uniform costing, they cannot have a similar data, means common data drawn from a common ground for interfirm comparison. And these are two different things. Uniform costing is a system of costing, and interfirm comparison is a management technique of comparing one company's achievement with other company for identifying their strengths and weaknesses and for further improving their operations. Uniform costing is the foundation stone over which interfirm comparison is developed and applied in a wider field. I could define this point like this, if uniform costing is a father, then interfirm comparison its son. Now let's discuss the objectives of interfirm comparison. As you know, the concept of interfirm comparison or as a management technique is dependent on uh, uniform costing. That's why we can consider the objectives of uniform costing as an objective of interfirm comparison. But still, I would like to explain to you the objectives of interfirm comparison. Actually, interfirm comparison involves identification of strengths and weaknesses of a firm by continuous comparison of performances, efficiencies, costs, and profits of different firms in same industry. The main purpose of interfirm comparison is the improvement of efficiency by showing management the present achievements and possible weaknesses. Interfirm comparison has the few correlated objectives to achieve. Let's discuss the objectives of interfirm comparison one by one. To identify strengths. After comparing, means in interfirm comparison, actually why the data is compared with other company to identify a particular company's strengths and weaknesses or weak spots. So this is the first motto of, and after identifying the strengths and weaknesses, company can improve its operations, or to get the benefits. Point number two, to identify the weak spots in comparison with other firms and to improve efficiency in future. After comparing our data with another company will come to know where they stand. If they are having any weakness, they can remove that weakness, and that's how they can improve their efficiency in future. Next point, to identify the adequacy of profit and to improve profitability position by comparing profits with member firms. That's true. Point number four, to make a study of comparative achievements for taking corrective action wherever necessary. Now, when the comparison made, when company comes to know that it is lacking in certain areas, then after finding out the causes, company can take necessary action to improve those causes or to eradicate those causes. To enable the member units to standardize various functions so that wastages can be minimized. After comparing the data with other company will find out the strong points of other company, and they can as it is copy them there, copy and paste all those their strong points. I mean to say, the company after knowing the strong points of other company, the company will think on it. It means your own company will think on it, and it will try to have such a kind of system which other company has in their own company. Now after that, I would like to discuss with you the prerequisites of interfirm comparison. As I already told you that a good uniform costing system is a prerequisite to an interfirm comparison. In view of this, the uniform costing system should be developed successfully, and for this, full cooperation of all participating units is required. But let's discuss what are the prerequisites for the installation of management technique of interfirm comparison. Point number one: establishment of good uniform costing system. Until and unless all the participating company agree to have a similar kind of costing system, processes, techniques, methods, interfirm comparison cannot be met. That's why it is essential to have a good uniform costing system which can be made applicable to all the participating companies. Point number two: establishment of neutral center, that is trade association, chamber of commerce, now national productivity council for interfirm comparison. The responsibility actually of collecting data, coordination among member units, and the presentation of information lies with such a center. And you know that the participating companies who wants to adopt a scheme of uniform costing, they should unite and agree to have a neutral center. They should establish a neutral center, and usually such a neutral center is known as trade association and chamber of commerce. Now it is the duty of a trade association to collect the necessary data in the desired format from all the participating unit. It should coordinate their activities. It should present the information um to all the participating company. And that's how I could say that there are four important functions of such a central body. First function, it should collect data and information from all its members. Then second function, I could say that after analyzing that data, it should provide the conclusive information to all the participating companies. It should undertake research and development for common and individual benefit of its member. It should, and the next function I could say that it should organize training program. It should convey the advantages of uniform costing system. It should publish the new ideas, the new ideas, or what could I say, the recent trends in the industry in magazine. I mean to say, it should publish the ideas, recent trends in magazines, and such a magazines should be made available only to the participating company. Next point: nature and extent of information required to be collected. Now, it is the duty of a trade association to collect the data from all the participating company. Let me elaborate this point. The extent of information required to be collected by the central agency will depend on the needs of the management, comparative value of information, and the efficiency of the central agency responsible for collection of data. Collection of a mass of data should be discouraged, as it will create confusion and cost of collection of data may not commensurate with the benefits. Therefore, only the requisite information should be collected. There is no standard list of information which is suitable for all industries. However, the central organization may collect data related to cost and cost structure. It may collect data related to labor efficiency and utilization. It may collect data related to machine efficiency and its utilization. It may collect data related to raw material consumption, including wastages, scraps, defective spoilage. It may collect data with respect to inventory control. It may collect data from the participating companies with respect to return on capital employed. It may collect data of return on net worth. It may collect data related with the liquidity and solvency position of the organization. It may ask the data related to reserves and appropriations of profits. It may call data related to the position of creditors and amounts of debtors. It may also ask the data of methods of production, and it may also ask the latest technical um, aspects and the R&D of companies. In short, I could say that trade association should collect the information which is required for the comparison from the participating company. If trade association wants to know which company is utilizing raw material in a better way, then it should collect information related to raw material, like how much raw material every company is consuming for the manufacturing of one unit, and what is the state of wastages, scrap, and defectives. Then it should collect data related to raw material if it wants to compare the efficiency in the utilization of raw material. In short, whatever the participating companies want to compare with each other, na, the related data should be sent by the participating company to the trade association. Next point, methods of collection and presentation of information in a suitable form. Now it is important. Methods of collection and presentation of information in a suitable form. Information is supplied by participating organization to the central organization periodically. Now it is important periodically. This information is provided in standard form specified by the central organization, and sometimes a questionnaire is sent to each member. The replies of the questionnaire received by the center constitute the data. In certain cases, information is supplied quarterly or half yearly, but it is prudent to collect information on an annual basis because most of the information is available from the published accounts of the companies. The information is then sorted out and relevant data in the form of a consolidated report are issued to the participating organization. The information collected by the central agency is kept secret, and the consolidated report contains only the ratios and not the absolute figures. For further safeguard, participating units are allotted code numbers and all the figures are collected against code numbers, and identity of the code number is not disclosed. Each organization is supplied with the key to its code number and not with the key of code numbers of other inferred organizations. Now, I would like to explain this point one more time. In short, see, it is the duty of a trade association to collect the data in a desired format. When I say in a desired format, then it should prepare that format and it should send that format to the participating company. Usually, a questionnaire is sent to the participating companies, and and participating companies fill that questionnaire and return that questionnaire to the central organization. After collecting the data through the questionnaire from the participating company, the trade association convert those absolute figures, the real figures, into ratio. And instead of providing absolute figures, real figures to other company, it provides the ratios to other company. And here one more trick is played by trade organization to keep secret the identity and the absolute figure of one company. Uh, it doesn't provide the real number, it provides the ratios only in order to keep secret the identity and the absolute figure. After collecting the ratios, means when the participating companies receives a report, and in that report absolute figures are not mentioned, only ratios are mentioned, and that company's identity is also kept secret. In that report, company's real name is not disclosed. In fact, a code word is disclosed, and every company is allotted with a code word. Let's say, as I have told you, your company is ABC Limited, and suppose I am the chairman of the trade association. When I will send you a report, in that report you will be getting information like this: particulars in one column, means all the ratios, and in next columns you will be having their code numbers. Let's say X, Y, Z, and you know your code number is X. It means someone other company's code is Y, but the real name of the company is not disclosed in that report. So this is the trick. After getting that report, you can compare your ratios with other companies' ratios to identify your position in the industry. So this is the key, and this point is quite important. Let's discuss now the next point. Let's discuss the procedure of interfirm comparison. Now, whatever I have just explained to you now, that is a part of procedure of interfirm comparison. But I will repeat it one more time. Point number two: central agency collects data from participating organization. Point number two: the data are analyzed and presented in such a manner by use of code numbers and ratios, and the data furnished by an individual company is kept secret. See, the real numbers of a particular company are not forwarded as it is to other company. In fact, when the report is forwarded by the central organization to the participating company, it contains only ratio, and all those ratios are mentioned against particular code number, and every company is allotted a code number. And when one company receives such a report, it knows only its code number, it doesn't know other company's code number. That's how the identity is also kept secret. Next point, the management of a company is provided with information which will enable them to determine its efficiency by comparing the performance of other companies within the industry. After receiving that report, the companies know its code number, and the company will come to know their ratios in the industry, and at the same time they have the ratios of other companies, but other companies names are not disclosed in that report. Only their code numbers are disclosed, and you know only your code number. You don't know the code number of other company, and you can compare your ratios with other company. It means you compare your performance with other company with the help of that ratio. Next, to highlight the weaknesses, an attempt is made to show why the efficiency of an organization is less than that of other organization. Now, this point is quite important. When the central organization prepare that report, it automatically comes to know which company is lacking in certain key area. Then for that company, it is the duty of a central organization to provide certain suggestions, and it should also convey that particular company the causes of having weakness in your company. Let's discuss now the advantages of interfirm comparison. Actually, interfirm comparison is the output of uniform costing system. That's why you can write as it is the advantages of uniform costing as advantages of interfirm comparison. But in addition to that, there are few advantages which I would like to share with you. Point number one, the extent of weakness of the participating firm is revealed. Management is therefore induced to take suitable remedial action. See, when after receiving the report from the trade association, company will compare their own ratio with other company, and after comparing their own ratio with other company, definitely they will come to know if they are strong or weak in that particular ratio. Mean in see ratios are a test of a ratios are actually it is a test of a particular activity. If you are weak in that particular activity, then it is your weakness. If you are strong, then that is your strong point. If you are weak, then management can will find out what are the causes, and after knowing the causes, management will definitely take suitable remedial action to overcome those causes. Point number two, it helps to diagnose symptoms of sickness of companies before they actually fall sick. Yeah, it's right. See, before getting sick, no, we have certain symptoms, and ratios are those symptoms. If you are weak in particular ratio, it means you are going to fall sick in future. So it is a kind of diagnosing symptoms of sicknesses. Point number three, it improves productivity of and efficiency in the utilization of labor, material, and plant capacity. Now it is quite obvious. When companies compare their their efficiency utilization of labor, material, and other things with other company, they will come to know where they stand, what is their position, and automatically they can improve their productivity and efficiency. Next point, it spotlights strengths of a business in relation to others in the industry. I think I already told you this point. It acts as a tool of cost control and cost reduction. Yes, true. It helps to the government, regulating agencies, and researchers in getting useful data and information to improve policies and conducting depth studies and research. Actually, trade association collects the data, then it processes that data, and it converts that data into information in the form of ratio, and all that information is made available. Many times, trade association publish that information in the magazines, and through the magazines, or sometimes government may also call it. And but when uh, trade association publishes that information in the magazine, researcher can easily get it for their further research. Point number seven, it stimulates self criticism by comparing its data with the other firms. Yes, it's quite true. Now, after that, let's discuss the limitations of interfirm comparison. Point number one, the uniform costing system may not be properly designed and installed. See, the management technique, that is interfirm comparison, is fully dependent on uniform costing system. If there are certain lacunas in the installation or in designing uniform costing system, then the same will be carried forward in interfirm comparison because it is dependent on uniform costing system. The top management feels that secrecy will be lost, and they may be of the opinion that when other tools of comparison are available, this tool has no utility. See, the primary requirement of interfirm comparison scheme or management technique is that all the participating companies should convey their cost or should make available their cost data to the central organization. And what is the purpose of providing that data? Because they want to compare their cost data with other company, and if there are other tools are available for comparing their cost data, then what is the need of having such an organization? What is the need of having a uniform costing system? They may be of that opinion, and they have a right opinion, because at the end of every financial year, all the companies publish their financial statements, and that financial statement is full of cost information. So by comparing that also, they can form their opinion about their company. So what is the need of then uniform costing system? Next, mostly the member firms do not disclose the relevant data as they think to be um, keep it as a confidential, and thus the information supplied may not be reliable for comparison or decision making purpose. Now it is but obvious, if any participating company unintentionally, if providing incorrect data, and if other companies are making decisions after comparing their own data with such incorrect data, then it will not serve any purpose at all. And that is quite possible. Point number 4, there may be no cost accounting system properly executed in the concern, and this will result in unreliable figures relating to the various aspects of cost, and there is possibility of misleading results if decisions are taken on the basis of these figures. I think, and it is quite obvious. So there is a need of properly installed and operating cost accounting system. There may not be available a suitable base for comparison purposes. That is also possible. Now, students, I would like to explain to you this dummy report of interfirm comparison. It is not a real report. But before that, I would like to revise the entire chapter in just 2 to 3 minutes. The uniform costing system says that all the participating companies should have a similar set of costing methods, principles, and techniques if they want to compare their achievements, performances, profitability, cost of production, and other key indicators with other company. And the management technique of inter-firm comparison is totally dependent on in uniform costing system. If there are problems in the installation of uniform costing system, then the same will be carried forward in the installation of inter-firm comparison system. So therefore, before installing interfirm comparison system, you should have to have uniform costing system. Now, what is this report? Who prepares that report? Actually, this report is prepared by the central organization, usually known as trade association. It collects the data in the prescribed format from the participating company, or it may also collect the data in the questionnaire prepared by it from the participating company. After collecting that data, the central organization convert that data into useful ratios. For example, like this, I have here mentioned gross profit ratio. X is 30%, Y is 29%, Z is 30%. Industry standard. Industry standard is nothing but the average of the X, Y, Z limited. But here you could say that who is X company. I mean to say, whose code is X, which company's code is Y, and which company's code is Z. And now that is kept secret. The identity of the company is kept secret, and in the report, absolute figures are not mentioned. The ratios are mentioned. Now, if as I have already told you, you are running a company XYZ Limited, and you are having two peers in the same industry, and you know that the X code is allotted to you only, but you don't know who Y code is allotted to whom, and who has got the Z code. But you can compare your data with Y company and Z company, and the beauty of this report, that the identity of the company and the real figures are not disclosed in it, and the identity of the company is kept secret. is kept secret. Nothing is disclosed. The identity is not disclosed as well as the real figures is there. Real figures are not disclosed. Here only company compare their own ratio with other company to determine their strength. Now here you could say that Z company is better as far as gross profit ratio is concerned. Now the next ratio is net profit ratios. Now you could say that X company is now is better as far as net profit ratio is concerned. Now to draw multiple conclusions, you should have to have a knowledge of ratio analysis. Then on the basis of gross profit ratio, I could say that the cost of goods sold ratio of Y company is more, so that is the weakness of Y company. As far as net profit ratio is concerned, I could say that the uh, indirect expenses, or the indirect expenses to sales ratio of Z company is more as compared to Y and X. So you need to have a knowledge of ratios. Only after that you can form conclusions. Now the next is here marketing overhead to sales. Next is here return on capital employed. So it means in that report multiple ratios are mentioned, and uh, next to the code numbers, the data of that particular company is mentioned, and the real figures are not mentioned. Only the absolute figures are not real figures are not mentioned. I mean to say absolute figures are not mentioned. Only the ratios are mentioned in that report against the allotted code number to every company.